The first thing that hit me when I arrived at the beach house was the silence, not the comforting kind people describe when they talk about peace, but something heavier, something that felt like the house had been holding its breath long before I walked in. The ocean was close enough that I could have reached it in less than a minute, yet even the waves felt muted, as if they respected the isolation of this place. That silence felt unfamiliar, almost like it was watching me instead of surrounding me. And I remember thinking that this was exactly what I needed after everything I had left behind. 3 weeks earlier I had quit my job without a backup plan. Everyone around me reacted like I had made a mistake that could not be undone. My mother Linda called it confusion that would pass soon. My father Robert stayed mostly quiet, but every few days he would send me job listings as if sending enough of them could fix something inside me. I was tired of being corrected in small ways, tired of feeling like every decision I made needed approval before it could exist. So I bought the small beach house on impulse, and for the first time in years, I made a decision that did not pass through anyone else. The house itself was simple, almost modest. 2 bedrooms, faded wooden floors that creaked softly with every step, and a narrow porch that faced the endless stretch of ocean. The previous owner had left behind furniture that did not match anything, chairs that did not belong together, and a table that leaned slightly, as if it had given up trying to be perfect. But I liked it that way. Imperfection felt honest, and honesty felt like something I had been missing for a long time. That first evening I opened every window in the house. The salty air rushed inside and moved through each room like it was reclaiming something that had been missing. Boxes from my old apartment sat untouched in the hallway, but I did not feel the urgency to unpack them. Instead, I walked slowly through each room, imagining what life would feel like if no one was constantly evaluating it. For the first time in years, my thoughts were not interrupted by expectations. I had just settled onto the porch when my phone rang. The screen showed my mother's name, and something in my chest tightened in anticipation. When I answered, her voice carried the same calm certainty it always had, the kind of tone that never asked for permission. She told me that she and my father would be arriving the next day. At first I did not fully understand what she meant, as if my mind refused to process the sentence. She repeated it, explaining that they would be coming to stay for a while. She said the house had 2 bedrooms, so it made sense. She added that they would bring their things and settle in because it was not good for me to be alone after quitting my job. Then she said something almost gentle, that if it did not work out, I could always find somewhere else to live. Each sentence felt like it was being placed into my life without my permission. I remember holding the phone tightly, feeling my fingers tense around it. I was not angry in that moment. I was strangely aware of something deeper, something familiar that I could not immediately name. I simply said that I understood and that we would talk when they arrived. She seemed satisfied with that answer and ended the call as if everything had already been decided long before she spoke to me. For a long time after that call, I sat on the porch without moving. The ocean continued its steady rhythm, completely unchanged by what had just happened. But inside me something had shifted. It was not loud or dramatic. It was subtle, like the return of a feeling I had once tried to forget. I began noticing memories that I had buried under years of quiet compliance, small decisions I had allowed others to make for me without realizing it. I remembered how my college major had been questioned until I changed it. I remembered the apartment I almost rented, which I gave up after hearing it was not in a good area according to my parents. I remembered a job offer I had once been excited about, which I declined because it required moving farther away from home. None of these moments involved shouting or conflict. They were gentle redirections that I had mistaken for care. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. Light filled the house in a soft way that made everything look almost peaceful again. For a brief moment I almost convinced myself that the phone call from the night before had not been real. But reality returned quickly, sitting heavily in my thoughts. Instead of unpacking, I decided to leave the house and drive into town. The office of the property manager was small and slightly worn, with faded brochures displayed in the window. The woman behind the desk listened carefully as I explained that I wanted to officially place the property under short-term rental management. She did not seem surprised. She said many owners in the area did the same thing. She explained the basics of occupancy rules, insurance requirements, guest limits, and legal structure. Everything she said felt calm and procedural, which was exactly what I needed. After that I visited a lawyer recommended by the real estate agent. The meeting was short and straightforward. We discussed contracts, legal protection, and formal registration. By the time I left the office, Several decisions had been made that would change how the house operated. It did not feel emotional. It felt structured, almost like building a wall brick by brick without realizing it. When I returned to the beach house, the sun was beginning to lower in the sky. The ocean looked the same as before, endless and steady. But something inside the house felt different, not physically but in the way I experienced it. The space felt more defined, as if invisible lines had been drawn around it. The boxes were still in the hallway, but they no longer felt like unfinished tasks. They felt like part of a system that was already in motion. The following morning, I heard a car pull into the driveway. My parents arrived together. My mother stepped out first, looking around immediately as if she was already organizing the space in her mind. My father followed, carrying 2 suitcases without hesitation. They moved toward the house like it was already familiar to them, like they had every right to be there. My mother walked inside before I could fully greet them. She commented on the natural light, saying it was perfect for rearranging furniture. She pointed out where the table should go as if she had already decided it. My father placed the suitcases in one of the rooms without asking any questions. They moved through the house with the confidence of people who believed everything around them would adjust to their presence. I stood near the entrance watching them settle in. It felt like observing a pattern I had seen many times before. Not just in this house, but throughout my life. The assumption that my space would always be shared, always be adjusted, always be available when needed. I realized I had never actually challenged it directly. I had only quietly accepted it each time. After a few minutes, I spoke. I told them that I needed to explain something about the house. They paused and looked at me, waiting. I told them that the property was now registered under a short-term rental management system and that there were formal rules for occupancy. I explained that insurance requirements limited long stays and that even I had to follow the same conditions. My mother's expression changed first. She asked what I meant, her tone shifting slightly. My father set his suitcase down slowly, as if trying to understand the weight of what I had just said. I repeated that the house was now legally structured for managed occupancy and that no one could simply move in permanently. There was a long silence after that. My mother tried to dismiss it at first, saying that we were family and that rules like that did not apply to us. I stayed calm and repeated that the agreements were not personal. They were legal and binding. For the first time, emotional pressure had no effect on the situation. There was nothing to negotiate. My father eventually sighed and said quietly that maybe it would be better for them to go back for now. My mother looked at him in disbelief, then back at me. I could see she wanted to argue further, to find a way around it, but there was nowhere for the conversation to go. The structure I had put in place did not bend to emotion. Within an hour, they had packed their things back into the car. Neither of them spoke much during the process. The energy in the house felt strange, not tense, but redefined. As they prepared to leave, I did not feel victory or revenge. I felt something closer to clarity, like a fog that had finally lifted from a room I had lived in for too long. When their car finally pulled away, I stood on the porch and watched it disappear down the narrow road. The sound of the ocean returned to the foreground, steady and uninterrupted. The house was quiet again, but it no longer felt fragile. It felt protected in a way I could finally understand. I sat down in the leaning chair on the porch and looked out at the water. For the first time since I had arrived, the silence did not feel like something pressing against me. It felt like something I could live inside without losing myself.